strano. Quindi l'immagine è là.
Sì. Siamo già vivo, eh? Hey, everybody, if you're just logging on, we're going to be live in a minute. As we get together, we're just giving everybody a chance to sign on. You're here for National Chianti Day, you're in the right place. We're live.
Oh, we are happy to be here. Yes.
Okay, I think we're going to get started. Hey, everybody, this is Lars Leicht from the Somm Journal, welcoming you. I'm coming to you live from the heart of Chianti. Thrilled to be here on behalf of the Somm Journal, of course, the Somm Foundation, and our friends here at Lamole di Lamole. This is on Facebook Live right now. It should be streaming, and as you know, you can get a reminder, you can get a recording of this on the Somm Journal website, sommjournal.com. Look under webinars and you'll see a recording of this if you want to catch up with this later, or if you have a chance to want to re-see something. But we're gonna get the ball rolling. We're celebrating National Chianti Day, and I thought we've done this for a couple of years, and I thought it was time that I did it in the heartland here in ground zero of Chianti. So I want to introduce my two fellow presenters here. This is Alberto Ugolini, who's the brand ambassador for Lamole di Lamole. You're looking at the phone?
Yes, it is better
yes,
this side.
exactly. So Alberto, tell us a little bit, and of course, Andrea Daldin, the winemaker for Lamole di Lamole, is here also. But we're going to get started with, I've asked Alberto to give us a little bit of an overview of Chianti. I think everybody, as we were saying before, is very familiar with Chianti as a name, but tell us a little bit more about a concept and why it's so important to us.
Okay, thank you, Lars. Hi, everybody. It's a pleasure for me to introduce this wonderful place. This is National Chianti Day. Chianti is the place we are now, is the region, the geographical area between Florence and Siena, is an island of rock inside the ocean of clay of Tuscany. Chianti Classico, and Lamole is the top of this rock, but Andrea tell you later. And but if you buy a wine, you have to put attention not to have on the label only the word Chianti, because Chianti is a geographical area, but for the wine world, for the rules of the wine appellations, Chianti can be produced in a large area, even outside the Chianti geographical area in Tuscany. So you have to notice, to drink the wine, to enjoy the wonderful juice of these wonderful hills, you have to be sure that on the label you find the word Chianti Classico. This is a classic word in Italy. When you find Classico on the label of an appellation, means that there is a larger area, and Classico is the smaller original area. So I told you before, it is an island, a rock inside the clay of Tuscany. So give you the idea of the altitude. This is one of the main features in a Chianti. You go from 200 to 700 meters altitude, and Lamole is a particular altitude, unique for this, and a rocky soils, and Sangiovese that dominates in a higher percentage than the other area, okay, except some other area like Montalcino. The list of Sangiovese here is 80%, 80 to 100% of the grapes, different clones, high altitude. So it means a continental climate compared to the other areas, continental climate with some Mediterranean influence of the breezes. Continental climate means diurnal shift, very high diurnal shift. So very warm days and very cool nights that are very good for preserving acidity and enhancing aromatic compounds. And the rocky soils, especially we can have alberese in other area. Here is a sandstone, Macigno del Chianti, we have a galestro. Mineral soils mean that the roots have to go down in search for water. And in this journey, they found mineral compounds to eat and to give complexity to the wines. So this is it's a paradise inside the Italian wine appellations. And so I introduce the real.
Wait a second, I have
The
questions.
leader.
Hold on, I have questions for you though.
Yeah.
So I just to sort of sum it up, Chianti is a geographical term. So the same way we would say Burgundy or Bordeaux, but then within that you have subzones.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? So Classico is in a sense a subzone. It's called Classico because it was the historic area, the first borders that were delimited, and then it grew because similar wine was made in other areas like Colli Senese.
Yes.
This means closer to the hills of Siena. Colli Aretini.
Yes, there are other subzones of the Chianti general area.
Right.
Because Chianti Classico is the historical center area.
Right.
Dominated by altitude, rocky soil, and higher percentage of Sangiovese.
Okay.
Inside Chianti Classico, you can have further subzones that we call the UGA. I think that.
No, yeah.
I don't know. Okay, so UGA are added geographical unit. It's like similar to Burgundy, the Premier Cru or Grand Cru. Here as larger than Burgundy, are the municipalities. They choose to put on the label for Gran Selezione alone the possibility to put the municipality, the area, the grapes and the wines come from. If all the vineyards are inside that area, these are UGA. So you can have a UGA Gaiola in Chianti, UGA Radda in Chianti, UGA Castelnuovo Berardenga. When they arrive to Greve in Chianti, is the municipality where Lamole is located. They said, no, Greve in Chianti is 200 meters altitude. Lamole is 600 meters, and Andrea later pay you with a particular soils can't be confused or put together with the Greve in Chianti general. So they dedicated, together with other two smaller areas, dedicated a UGA to Lamole. So we have 11 UGA, 8 related to municipalities, and 3 in Lamole, that is the smallest ones and the highest in altitude, UGA, because they recognize, the consortium recognize the particularity of this particular area where we are now. And I think that, Andrea, it's time.
Cool, absolutely. So
explain why Lamole, and Andrea, you have to move this way.
This is coming in. So essentially, like all the great wine regions in the world, we're talking about sense of place, and you just can't really generalize about an area because there are very specific subzones, very areas within, even from one vineyard to the other, as we all know. So we're celebrating National Chianti Day. We're celebrating all Chiantis today, but we thought it would be fun to celebrate it from a very unique place. And so we have Andrea Daldin. We're actually live in the vineyard. You can see our crew of American Somms are behind us, joining us, hosting us. But we thought it'd be fun to present from here. And I will be actually translating for Andrea. So why don't you come a little bit this way and I will start translating for you. So welcome. Benvenuto, Andrea. Benvenuto to your vineyard.
Yes.
It's an honor to be here.
Siamo nel vigneto storico, il vigneto del 1945.
So this vineyard was planted in 1945. So again, a great area of old vines and very historic soils.
Quali sono presenti 32 biotipi di Sangiovese.
And in this vineyard, they have 32 different biotypes of Sangiovese, different clones, essentially.
Caratterizzati da dimensioni diverse.
And some of the differences, as he showed all of us this morning as we walked through the vineyards, there are a lot. But one of the notable differences, obviously, is the size of the berries.
E da capacità di produrre uva di migliore o minore qualità.
And here within these different biotypes you have, or different clones, you have wines that can produce greater or lesser quality, depending on the conditions.
All'interno dei quali è stato selezionato il clone storico di Lamole, il Sangiovese R10.
So from that larger selection, they chose the historic, the one, we'll call it their ideal clone, called Lamole 10, which is the clone that they've then planted other vineyards with, and has also been used in other areas, right? È stato usato
anche in un'altra zona, principalmente a Montalcino.
So even in Montalcino, there are a lot of producers use the Lamole clone.
Un'altra caratteristica di Lamole è la forma di allevamento. All'interno di Lamole si trovano molti vigneti allevati ad alberello.
Another unique character here is that because they're so high, you have a lot of the vineyards are trained to alberello, which is head trained vine, so lower to the ground.
Una forma di allevamento che sta molto più vicino a terra, sfrutta il calore del terreno per raggiungere la maturità.
So because we're in a cooler area, the vines are closer to the ground and take advantage of the heat that comes off the ground and the reflection from the sun to stay a little warmer.
E questo permette all'Amole di avere un ciclo vegetativo molto più lungo di tutto il resto del territorio del Chianti Classico.
So that actually allows Lamole to have a longer growing cycle, longer growing period than the rest of Chianti Classico.
Questo con questo cosa si ottiene nel vino? Maggiore freschezza, maggiore bevibilità e maggiore maturità.
So what does that mean in the wine itself? It means greater freshness, greater structure, and greater ageability.
I think, sorry, Lars, I think
It's all
it is better I take a bottle of wine and a serve.
I would
And
love
I
that.
serve you the first of the two wines. Okay, you can taste, I suppose. Oh, they have their wines. Oh, okay, we are starting with Maggiolo, so I go there.
Please do.
And Andrea can talk about, for the example, for the organic farming of these. I go and
okay, great. So if those of you who are the fortunate ones of you who through the Somm Foundation were able to have some samples, this is the time to open your Maggiolo. Let it breathe. I'm sure, I bet you already have opened it, just a guess. But parliamo del bio.
Allora, intanto tutto il territorio di Lamole è bio, quindi tutti i produttori di Lamole, siamo 11, siamo tutti biologici.
So in this area of Lamole, there are, together with Lamole di Lamole, there are 10 other producers. So 11 producers all together, and they're all farming organically, which is very important.
La coltivazione biologica inizia a Lamole nel 2005.
We started here in 2005 with organic farming.
E inizia con l'utilizzo di prodotti naturali.
And that started with the use of natural products in the vineyards.
Quali aloe, propoli,
so
alghe.
Aloe, propolis, and algae-based products.
Che cosa fanno questi prodotti?
What do these products do?
Aumenta la capacità di resistere della pianta.
They allow the plant to resist disease,
all'attacco dei funghi.
And especially molds and fungi.
Con due sistemi diversi.
And we use two different systems for that.
Il primo aumentando lo spessore della pellicola dell'acido.
So one of the things that these substances do is they encourage the berries to have a thicker skin.
Il secondo aumentando la capacità di produrre sostanze che combattono i funghi che aggrediscono la pianta.
And they also allow the plant to develop substances that have that help it fight off diseases, fight off the other conditions.
Negli anni 2010-2015 abbiamo cominciato a usare altri prodotti.
So from 2010 to 2015, we started to add other products in the vineyards that we're using.
Sono oli essenziali di arancia.
Essential orange oil.
Che praticamente disidratano il fungo o l'insetto che attacca la pianta.
And what that does is it dehydrates the funguses, the molds that form on the plant, and also chases away any of the insects that would attack it.
Negli ultimi anni stiamo utilizzando nuovi prodotti.
In the last couple of years, we're using more new products
su base di distillato di piante di bosco.
That are actually a distillation used from some of the plants in the surrounding forests here.
Sfruttiamo i tannini del legno.
We're taking advantage of the tannins of the wood, del legno
del bosco.
of the woods.
Che praticamente aiutano la pianta nelle annate di stress.
And that helps the vines, especially in stressful years, hot years, drought years.
Hanno un sapore, un profumo particolare che tengono lontani i cinghiali.
What's good is it also keeps the wild boars away because of the smell of these distillates.
E riducono l'aggressività del fungo che aggredisce foglia o grappolo.
And it reduces the aggression of the molds that might form, the funguses that would form either on the leaves or on the grape bunches.
La caratteristica principale è che l'agricoltura biologica dà un carattere al vino.
And what's great is that this organic farming actually adds character to the wine.
Molto più territoriale, molto più favorisce l'altitudine, la freschezza, le caratteristiche di questo territorio che è unico.
So it really highlights the natural inherent characteristics that we have. The height here, the freshness of the wine are really heightened by that. So what do we have, Alberto?
Now we start with Chianti Classico DOCG Maggiolo. Maggiolo is the union of two names. Maggio is the name of a month, May, and Giaggiolo, that is a flower, the iris, that together May and Maggio, and Giaggiolo, May and iris
of May.
In Italian, May. Maggiolo. It's a fantasy name to give the idea of a wine, of a Chianti Classico, with a flowery expression, especially iris, violet notes, and juicy sensation. And This is only to explain. This is 2019. Sorry, yes, 19 vintage. So it is 90% Sangiovese and 10% a blend of Merlot and Cabernet Sauvignon.
Oh, okay.
Merlot Cabernet Sauvignon that we have in our vineyards since planted in during the 80s
Right.
and the 90s. Very old vines because at that time there was the fashion of international grape varieties. So now they have the roots so deep in the soil that embrace so many stones.
They've Tuscanized.
Down here, yeah, Tuscanized. They Lamolized.
Yeah.
I can say they Lamolized the wine. So the expression, even for Cabernet Sauvignon Merlot, that is only 10%. And okay. And what we make, cosa facciamo col Cabernet Sauvignon e col Sangiovese, dove maturano?
Intanto Merlot è nella zona più alta di Lamole,
So the Merlot was grown here in the highest vineyards,
mentre il Cabernet nella zona più bassa.
while
Quindi,
Cabernet has grown a little bit lower down.
420 metri, 650.
400 for the 400 meters above sea level for the Cabernet, 700 for the Merlot.
Vinificati ovviamente separatamente
Vinified separately
ed affinati in barrique di secondo e terzo passaggio.
and aged in barrels that have twice and third use.
Il Sangiovese invece il Sangiovese che rappresenta tutto il territorio di
The
Lamole
Sangiovese, which represents the whole territory of Lamole,
è a fine vinificazione che è molto breve
it has a very short vinification,
per mantenere freschezza e
maintain
bevibilità.
freshness, elegance, drinkability,
Viene affinato in botti di legno per minimo 12 mesi.
and they age that in casks for a minimum of 12 months.
Prima dell'imbottigliamento
Before
viene
bottling,
col blend, e
They
poi viene
assemble the
portato
wine, make their
all'imbottigliamento.
blend, and then they bottle it, and it ages. E poi quanti mesi in bottiglia?
Ma solitamente minimo lo teniamo 3 mesi noi. come
And usually
regola
it's a
di-
minimum of 3 months in the bottle. Bottle aging is very
Okay, this
important
is more
before
than 1
release. This one is
Yeah,
the-
yeah.
now. but
These are
before
longer.
release.
The long.
Parliamo del vino. So let's talk a little bit about what we're tasting and what you guys are tasting with us.
Vabbè, quello che
C'è freschezza,
noi abbiamo
chiaramente.
note fruttate, note freschezza,
Fruity notes, fresh notes,
un bel tannino levigato.
but a good tannin, a soft tannin that just gives it a nice crispness.
Al naso questa nota balsamica sul finale, floreale balsamica.
You got this floral and balsamic note on the nose.
Beh, in bocca c'è questa parte fresca, il tannino molto levigato, ben presente, una
Fresh,
grande
the tannin is
persistenza
very
e
much there.
progressione.
It helps give the wine a nice long finish, great persistence.
È un vino che porta a bere e ribere.
It's a wine that encourages you to drink it and then encourages you to drink some more because it really is delicious. This is what I love about a Chianti Classico.
È ovviamente un vino che va bevuto mangiando.
Clearly, it's a food wine. It's a wine that goes very well with
Un
food.
vino adatto agli antipasti, ai primi
For
piatti.
Antipastos, first courses, pastas, and whatnot.
We say in a gastronomic wines.
Yes.
But I like this wine because it's joyful, playful, juicy, a lot of expression without losing some complexity.
Yep.
You perceive Sangiovese, you perceive high altitude. I perceive altitude. There's this elegance and at the same time easy drinking, foot forward, straightforward to be enjoyed. And because of these smooth tannins, it can be served even in the summer with a not particularly hot temperature, even
Slightly
little,
chilled.
yes, fresher temperature, some chilled.
10 minutes in the
yes.
fridge, 2 minutes
Yes,
in the
could be
ice bucket.
nice. Even to be paired with some fish too. Okay,
Yeah.
fish with sauces. Yes, important fish. I mean,
Tomato,
yeah, but
Mediterranean
tomato,
flavors,
yes,
tomatoes,
Mediterranean,
herbs.
exactly. Yes, I love these. It's like a Renaissance, they say, style because they're close to Florence. More Botticelli. We say some figure very dancing, very floral. Try to drawing of the picture, of the painting. So very, very lively style, very bright, pure sensation. I love this.
You know,
Really
and
nice.
the old image of Chianti was the Chianti in the straw flask, always got the
Oh, yeah.
table. It wasn't always a good wine.
Yeah,
This is what it was always supposed to be to me.
Yeah.
Young, fresh, fruity. It's as close as we get with the red wine to what we call in America a porch pounder.
Yeah.
We can sit and drink it under any conditions, even by the pool, like we said, slightly chilled. Super with food because it's got zesty character, wonderful quality. Yeah, almost a little bit Burgundian in a sense.
yeah, yes, this is
Yeah.
this is a style of between even I can say, sorry for Italian, for French,
It's okay.
between Beaujolais and Bourgogne, and Burgundy, sorry,
Yes.
this come from Gamay to Pinot Noir. Okay, we are talking Sangiovese, high altitude in Chianti Classico. So only to make some reference that most people probably know.
Right.
But this is not the Chianti Classico that probably you tasted, and for sure it's not. You tasted 10 years ago, even 5 years ago. This is a very modern, contemporary style. Contemporary means that you have something immediate, but at the same time, it works inside of you. It's like a poetry, very easy to understand, but very exciting at the same time.
You know, Andrea said freschezza, freshness.
Yes, freshness.
On
for
the
sure.
on the finish of this wine. We were walking through the vineyards today, and a bunch of us noticed that on the edges of the border there is wild fennel growing, and I get this little note on the finish of wild fennel. It just gives you that little pop at the end that makes it so
Some
refreshing.
aromatic herbs.
C'è un po' di Pinocchio
sì,
selvatico.
sì, sì.
Usiamo un altro parametro, la luminosità.
There's
Il
another term.
colore, come già dal colore
Luminosity.
si riesce a capire quello che è un vino fresco, fruttato, giovane, il concetto di luce.
So that
Come-
concept of light into a wine that helps you understand the wine better.
Perché oggi esistono dei vini estremamente impenetrabili a livello, che già dal colore danno l'impressione di importanza, di struttura, di grandezza.
Because today we have so many wines that are out there that are deep and dark and impenetrable. Here, that people think that because the wine is so dark, it must be good, it must be quality.
Invece già questo, pur avendo la presenza del Cabernet e del Merlot, ha una perfetta luminosità, una perfetta trasparenza, che rappresenta poi quello che è il concetto di olfattivo e gustativo, freschezza, leggerezza, bevibilità.
So here with this
vitalità.
wine, notwithstanding the presence of Cabernet and Merlot, which are generally a little darker than Sangiovese would be, it's got beautiful lightness, beautiful reflections of the light that, as Andrea said, reflect that essence of the wine, the freshness, the drinkability of it.
Un nuovo parametro che noi utilizziamo
So,
spesso
It's a new parameter that we don't
nella-
often use. What is the luminosity of the wine? What is
nella
the,
descrizione del colore.
as a description of the color? How does it let light in? Bene, passiamo al prossimo.
Oh, yeah. The next one, in 1 minute, is Chianti Classico Riserva. As a Riserva, l'Areale. L'Areale is the name that means, comes from all the area. L'Areale is El Areale in Italian, all together on the label. L'Areale, all the vineyards in, Andrea, in Lamole, how many vineyards, how many hectares there are, and how many hectares are Lamole di Lamole owned?
Vigneti totali a Lamole sono circa 95.
So there are about
noi abbiamo
95 hectares in
37
Lamole.
ettari. 37.
Total area, but 37 of them are under vine.
Quindi vabbè, l'Areale è il vigneto principale, una delle zone principali.
So
dell'Areale.
l'Areale is one of the principal areas of our estate. It's a little bit lower down on a plain.
Ma all'interno poi di questo vino ci sono comunque tutti i vigneti presenti all'interno dell'azienda.
But within that wine, there are representative grapes of pieces from almost all the vineyards of the area. So it's an estate blend, I would call it.
Parliamo di Sangiovese
So we're speaking about Sangiovese,
e di botte grandi, quindi affinamento in botti grandi
Large
per
casks
24 mesi.
for
solitamente.
24 months usually.
Quindi un periodo molto lungo, ma le
So it's a
botti
long period,
grandi non cedono molto legno.
But because they're large casks, they don't give a lot of wood influence. The main function of them is micro oxygenation.
La coginazione è quello di creare dei legami e rendere questo vino ancora più elegante e più complesso.
So again, that micro oxygenation helps the wine become a little bit more elegant, adds to some of the complexity.
Da questo punto di vista cambia la fermentazione, una fermentazione sicuramente più lunga.
So
dai
at this
15
time,
ai
we're
20
obviously have a
giorni.
longer fermentation than we did with the first wine. You've got 15 to 20 days fermentation.
Con questo metodo chiamato metodo Lamole,
And we call it the Lamole method.
nel quale dopo un giorno si separano le bucce dal must.
So after 1 day, we remove the pumice, the crushed grape skins, we remove them from the must,
Quando il mosto ha raggiunto gli 8, 6, 8 gradi alcol,
store them separately in a tank. When the must gets to about 7 to 8% alcohol,
viene riunito alle sue bucce.
It is
rimesso sulle
then-
bucce.
put back together with the skins, with the pumice.
Quindi abbiamo un'estrazione in fase alcolica
So you have extraction taking place during the alcoholic fermentation.
e all'interno delle bucce si sono formate delle catene
And what happened is when the skins were sitting there waiting for the must to ferment, It's internally formed chains
antociani,
of
flavonoidi,
anthocyanins and flavonoids,
che sono molto più complesse ed equilibrate.
which become much more complex and balanced than if the skins were just fermented together with the wines.
Questo ci permette di avere un vino pronto subito,
So this allows us to have a wine that's ready to drink right away, sooner,
ma avere un vino che ha una molta longevità, quindi la
But a
possibilità di
wine
essere
with-
bevuto nel tempo.
great ageability. You can drink it well into time. It'll age very well.
I see that it's 14 alcohol degrees, so it's
It does not feel
yeah,
hot.
it's not. It just doesn't feel.
It's a fuller mouthfeel. I get a lot of cherry fruit, un po' di amarena, the cherries on the syrup.
Yes.
And I would say even a longer finish. Beautiful persistence to it. Round, just keeps on giving on the palate.
Tannino levigato che riempie la bocca,
Yeah.
progressione, profondità, persistenza.
It's a soft tannin that's not invasive, but actually gives the wine length. And again, another great food wine.
Un'ottima nota ematica, infatti è un vino che si abbina molto bene alle carni. Questa nota di ferro.
Absolutely. It's got some
manganese.
notes of iron and magnesium from the soils here. So it goes very well with meat. Very well, of course. It's Tuscany, so they love the bistecca fiorentina that we've been enjoying too.
Cinghiale, bistecca,
Cinghiale, right? Wild boar. Any grilled meats, summer barbecue. Why not with just barbecue? Good old Southern barbecue. Why not?
Yeah, I think that with the wine before was, I could say to get an image, horizontal wine, stay on the surface to make enjoying dancing.
Yeah.
This is really more vertical,
Yes.
that enter in depth of inside. Like in the meat, enter and cut the meat, when you taste and enter in the fibers of the meat and make a connection because of the aromatics, but even the tannins that are really present, but at the same time, I can say polished, fine-grained, really refined in it, and very representative of the terroir of Lamole, because this comes from all the vineyards of this area. So we present probably in a few minutes 2 Gran Selezione, Vigna Grospoli and Vigneti di Campolungo, but these they are specific single vineyard.
Yeah.
This comes from all of them, so represent really Lamole in Lamole di Lamole. So we have lucky because we have the winery with the double name of a wonderful terroir, and Lamole di Lamole expression and styles very well. It's more together with the other, more playful, joyful. The other ones, this is a little more austere, a little more severe, rigorous, but in the same time in a very good way.
It grabs your attention. It's like when
Yeah,
somebody
yes,
walks into the room and you say, well, who is that? Because it's got it's got a almost nobility to it, but a very approachable nobility. Yeah, you want steak. I want steak right now. But at the same time, I also could continue to stand here and sip this wine. It's not as much, I wouldn't call it a porch pounder by any extent, but I always enjoy when I cook a meal, when I have guests over, whatever meal we're going to have first, I serve that wine first before the food comes out and we sit and talk about it, and then watch how the wine reacts with the food and vice versa. I could see spending a little bit longer before I serve the food with this wine because it is so delicious. It's got an elegance, it's got presence to it.
This is a wine that don't drink without thinking. Probably the one before you can drink with friends and your talk. In this way,
By the way, what
is
wine?
this? What is this? What I'm tasting?
I said
what
it gets your
things?
attention.
Yeah, catch attention, exactly. Because it's a lot of entering depth, don't stay on the surface.
Right. And the vintage 2018.
2018.
2018.
Sì, quindi è un'annata piovosa nel periodo invernale.
So it was a rainy winter in 2018.
Poi ha fatto la parte centrale, quindi giugno, luglio, un
Then
po' più
June,
caldo,
July was a little warmer,
però con temperature che non hanno mai superato
but
i 40
never a real
gradi.
heat wave.
E poi ha avuto un finale, comunque le piogge fondamentali per una buona vendemmia sono quelle settembrine.
And the
Piogge
real
di
the real
settembre.
important rainfall for a good vintage is the ones that start in September, aren't too heavy,
Before harvest.
but just before harvest,
Yeah.
refresh things up a little bit.
Yeah.
Questo perché quindi la temperatura ideale per la fotosintesi, che è stata
It's the
regolare e
ideal temperature for
costante,
photosynthesis. You have good diurnal shift.
e anche per quello che è la maturità della pianta, perché in temperatura troppo alta la pianta si blocca.
And also it's the same, it's a great temperature for the vine itself, because temperatures are too hot, the vine's going to go and it's going to shut down.
Infatti con questo cambiamento climatico degli ultimi anni, escluso questo, le zone più alte sono sempre quelle più favorite ed avvantaggiate.
In fact, that's been an advantage that we have enjoyed with climate change, and the warmer summers that we've been having. Being up 600 plus meters above sea level has been a great advantage. Gives that wine, the wines, that ethereal character to them.
E in questo Lamole sta già lavorando per il futuro,
So that's why Lamole is already thinking about the future in this.
riprendendo i vecchi cloni con molto più grossi.
So going back to clones that spiego sinteticamente.
Larger, yeah.
So what they started to do with the project called Chianti 2000 is they started looking for clones that had smaller berries. And with the smaller berry, you have a greater percentage of skin, which all the anthocyanins and tannins come from, to a smaller percentage of pulp. That was very important at that time. It didn't seem that long ago, but already the changes have happened in the climate that they're now favoring clones that have a larger berry. So you have a greater proportion of pulp to a smaller proportion of skins, and that's returning some of the freshness to the wine.
Perfetto.
I listened before when you told me this.
Ma questo ci permette comunque, ci permetterà nel futuro
So that will allow us in the future
di sopperire a queste annate molto calde.
to survive these really hot vintages that happen fairly often.
Cos'è cambiato negli ultimi 30 anni?
So what's happened in the last 30 years?
Per 20 anni abbiamo avuto
For 20 years,
7 annate piovose e 3 siccitose.
we had in a decade, we'd have 7 years that were dry and 7 years that were wet and 3 that were dry.
Negli ultimi 10 anni si è invertito.
In the last 10 years, it's flipped on its head.
Quindi 7 estremamente
7 years
siccitose
that were
e
really
3
dry.
piovose.
And then 3 that are wet.
Quindi con questo cambiamento
Rainy.
climatico è fondamentale avere un acino più grosso,
So that's important for us to have a larger berry on the grape,
così la pianta riesce a sopperire all'estremo caldo durante
so
il
the
processo
plant and the grape are able to survive and thrive in that greater heat.
e a riportare quelle che sono le gradazioni alcoliche a una gradazione un po'
And
più
that
diluita,
also helps us keep the alcohol content in balance,
per evitare di avere vini a 15 gradi alti.
so we don't have 15-16% wines.
Yeah, in Lamole we are lucky because 600 meters altitude, because the vineyards go from 420 meters, the lowest point, to 655 meters. So very high altitude.
Yeah.
Lamole UGA is the highest in average altitude in all the UGA, the area. And so we can exploit the longer ripening season. So it means
Right.
that we never harvest in August or beginning of September. And so entering in end of September or October means to have a naturally cooler nights.
Right.
So really in this case, we are really lucky, and a lot of very important wineries in the last years try to arrive in Lamole. Someone succeeded, but the vineyards are not so many and are all occupied.
Il cambiamento climatico modificherà anche quello che è il
Climate
sistema
change
di affinamento dei vini.
will also have an impact on the aging of the wines.
Quindi ridurremo quello che è l'affinamento in legno
So we'll actually probably have less time in wood
per favorire e mantenere quella che è la
trying
parte fruttata e fresca
to
del vino
really
di Lamole.
maintain that fruity and freshness that is the character of Lamole. Andiamo al prossimo vino.
Purtroppo si finisce qua. Abbiamo due. Sì, no, okay, we finished in the... No. Oh, we have. Oh,
We have a third one.
I'm the first surprise. So.
This is always the fun of doing things live. Alberto didn't realize there was more wine. So we said the Gran Selezione.
No one
Right.
told me, and I'm really happy to find any ones. The new ones is Chianti Classico, Gran Selezione, Chianti Classico DOCG, Gran Selezione Vigneto di Campolungo 2018. I say. So explain the vigneto and I serve the wine.
Infatti, però, prima chiedo, what the hell does Gran Selezione mean? Cosa significa Gran Selezione?
Answer.
Allora, il consorzio del Chianti
So
Classico
the Chianti Classico Consortium
nel
in
2014
2014
ha deciso di inserire all'interno
decided
della
to
piramide
add within the pyramid of the denomination
una nuova categoria,
a new category,
che è la gran selezione.
which is Gran Selezione.
Come si differenzia la gran selezione dagli altri vini?
How is Gran Selezione different from our other wines than a Chianti Reserva, for example?
Uno deve avere caratteristiche chimiche
So,
e organolettiche
It has to
diverse,
have chemical and organoleptic characteristics that are distinctly different.
quindi estratto,
So more extract,
note freschezza,
notes of
struttura, eleganza,
freshness, structure, elegance.
e deve essere affinato per un periodo minimo di 30 mesi,
It must be aged for 30 months, mentre Reserva,
24,
well, for Reserva is only 24 months. So it's 6 months more of aging minimum.
e deve superare delle analisi chimiche, delle commissioni d'assaggio che sono molto rigide.
It
da
also
questo
has to
punto di
go up against a tasting panel, not our tasting panel, but a special tasting panel that the consortio puts together to determine if these wines have the character that help define it as a Gran Selezione.
Oggi la gran selezione rappresenta il 4-5% delle bottiglie vendute.
Fra 4 e 5%. So right now, Gran Selezione is only about 4 to 5% of all the bottles of Chianti sold, Chianti Classico.
Chianti Classico vende circa tra i 30 e i 35 milioni di bottiglie.
You sell about 30 to 35 million bottles of Chianti Classico.
E quindi
combined.
parliamo della gran selezione, sono circa 1,5 milioni di bottiglie.
So Gran Selezione, you're talking about 1.5 million bottles, so a relatively small production. And it must come from a single vineyard.
Ecco, noi abbiamo scelto di farlo come single vigna, in questo caso è Vigneto di Campolungo,
So this single vineyard here is the vineyard called Campolungo,
che è un vigneto di 10 ettari,
which is a 10-hectare vineyard.
con altitudine che varia tra 420 e 550 metri.
Quattro so goes from about 420 to 550 meters above sea level.
E con impianti che sono piantati dall'82 ad oggi.
And the vines were planted between 1982 and actually up until very recently.
Quindi un Sangiovese storico grosso.
So it's a historic Sangiovese Grosso.
Nella parte del Chianti Classico dei cloni del Chianti Classico 2000.
And it's part of the selections that we made with that project that I mentioned before, Chianti Classico 2000, when the consortia really looked at different clones that would help them for the wines of that period.
Dopo aver effettuato una selezione in vigna delle uve,
After we do a selection of the grapes in the vineyard,
abbiamo un selettore ottico in cantina che
we have an optical sorter in the winery,
seleziona gli acini per dimensione e
which
colore.
selects the berries for their size and their color.
Vinificazione 15-20 giorni.
The vinification is for about 15 to 20 days.
E un affinamento in legno minimo di 24 mesi.
And minimum aging in oak for 24 months. Che tipo di legno?
In questo caso è legno grande.
In this case,
una
it's
piccola
casks.
parte stiamo provando anche con delle barrique.
And they're also trying a small percentage, there as a trial now, small percentage in barriques, but principally in larger casks.
Okay, this is a wine, in my opinion, that connects in some way the wines we tasted before, connect the horizontal of the first wine or the vertical of the second. We can talk about a three-dimensional, I say, three-dimensional wine because you have width, you have longness, and you have depth. So you have the three dimensions like a ball. I say in the mouth is a complete of a lot of sensation of yes, it's on the fruity, on the spicy, it's on the aromatic herbs, it's on the tertiary aromas. You have a very tannic, but at the same time fine grain.
What is the proportion of Sangiovese in here?
100%.
So it's 100% Sangiovese. So what I'm getting is, I almost wouldn't have expected that, because on the mid palate, to your point of it being multi-dimensional, on the mid palate, I get a velvety sensation. Yet at the same time, on the sides of the palate, you get that the tannins kind of dry a little bit of the side of the mouth, and you get but again, that freshness is fantastic. Great structure.
Aggiungerei due aspetti.
He will also add two more aspects to
Il
this.
primo, che la
The
metà del
first
vigneto è su terrazzamenti,
is that the vineyard is half of the vineyard is on terraces.
quindi col vantaggio che danno i terrazzamenti,
And what advantages the terraces give us besides not losing soil to run off?
più luce,
But you have more light,
calore, temperatura minima più alta.
So the minimum temperature is higher because the stones that the terraces are made of hold a lot of that heat
E
from the sun.
terreno molto drenato, quindi l'acqua va
And
via.
the soil is actually very well drained. So the water goes away. The vines don't have wet feet, which we know vines don't like to have.
E obbliga le radici ad andare in profondità alla ricerca di acqua e sostanze
So
minerali.
because of that, the vines reach very deep and they look for those mineral substances. They're looking for water. They get minerality on the ride down.
Il secondo aspetto importante,
Second important aspect
essendo su terrazzamenti,
is being on terraces.
l'uomo al servizio della pianta.
The plant doesn't serve the man, but the man has to serve the plant. The person has to serve the plant.
Quindi la formazione, la selezione del personale che è in grado di gestire e capire come va potata, gestita la pianta durante il periodo.
So the people
vegetativo.
that work our vineyards have to be very well trained, very much in touch with the vine, very much understanding what is going on in the vineyard and how the vine is reacting to it.
Inoltre, avendo queste differenze di altitudine, abbiamo una parte bassa del vigneto.
So
che ha
also,
più
as we said, we have
struttura,
that almost 100 meters difference between the lower end of the vineyard and the higher end of the vineyard.
mentre abbiamo quindi la parte bassa che dà più struttura, la parte alta che dà più freschezza, più eleganza, più del mix
So-
di entrambe su quello migliore.
So the grapes from the lower part of the vineyard give us a little bit more structure and body. The grapes from the higher part give us a little bit more elegance and freshness.
Questo rappresenta uno dei vigneti di Lamole, quello esposto ad ovest,
So this is one of our single vineyards that is actually has a western exposure,
con due forme di allevamento,
and we have two forms of training, vine training there.
quella storica che è il
One is the
cordone speronato,
Historic cordone speronato, spurred cordon.
mentre attualmente utilizziamo all'interno di quella vigna il
Well,
Guyot.
Right now, we're
Toscano.
also using Guyot.
Nei vecchi vigneti c'erano 3.000 piante a ettaro,
In the old vineyards, you had 3,000 plants per hectare.
quindi abbiamo un Sangiovese un po' più grosso che produce
So,
un po' di più.
A larger Sangiovese produced more.
Nei nuovi vigneti sono
In the new
6.000
vineyards,
piante a ettaro,
We're going to 6,000.
quindi ogni
vines per
pianta
hectare.
produce un chilo
So,
di
Every
piante.
plant produces about a kilo of grapes, a couple of pounds of grapes.
Il mix di entrambe, il blend di entrambe è quello che dà questa
And the mix of those
esplosione.
two planting systems gives us this explosion of flavors.
But I think that if the man was serving the plants in the vineyards, now the plants is serving us with wonderful
Absolutely.
joy, because this is a wonderful wines. I mean, compared with the other, these probably you need some more complex food.
Yeah.
I mean, a long cooked meat with a lot of spicy or very mature cheese.
Brasato.
Oh yes, brasato, yes, brasato, really complex. Probably bistecca alla Fiorentina T-bone. It's too much.
Yeah.
No, this wine is overcome. Okay, we enjoy wonderful food with a wonderful wine everywhere.
Not
Okay,
that I
this
would
is the-
push, not that I would push the bistecca
Yes.
away,
yes.
but if
But
beggars could be
this is
choosers.
really so multidimensional.
Yeah.
In terms of flavors, in terms of aromatics, in terms of tastes,
Mhm.
in terms of texture.
Yep.
They probably need really some particular food, or at the end of a dinner, like a meditation wine.
Vino da
Maybe-
meditazione.
Yes.
You
Could-
sit in the winter, you sit in front of the fireplace and just sip this and
Yes.
ponder life.
Yes. And stop and meditate. Yes.
Then, is it another wine?
Yes.
Let's go to it. So everybody, the people that were shipped from the Somm Foundation had a total of 3 wines, including this one. And we just decided we're going to taste another wine, not to make you feel jealous, but we wanted to speak about one more wine, c'è un altro vino. Yes, surprise, there's another wine, Alberto. This is your day. Che?
No,
But-
no. It's not too much wine.
But let's talk about that vineyard anyway.
Yeah.
Which was?
Grospoli. It's a surprise.
The
No,
Grospoli.
Vigna Grospoli. Exactly. No, we don't have it.
Okay.
It's a
They
Vigna
don't have it,
Grospoli.
we don't have it, so nobody
We
gets
taste
upset.
later without you looking at us.
sorpresa,
Yes.
bella,
It's
proprio.
our surprise for us later. Okay. No, Vigna Grospoli is a gran selezione.
Also.
Like also a gran
Single
selezione, like
vineyard.
Vigneto Campolungo, single vigna. But what the difference? Quali sono le differenze rispetto a Campolungo?
Intanto l'altitudine,
So one of the big differences is the height of the vineyard, the
quindi molto
altitude.
diverso da Campolungo,
So very different than
da
Campolungo.
520 a 550, quindi molto
It
diverso.
goes from 550, 500
520, 550.
to
520,
Excuse me.
550.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I have trouble
No,
with
no, no.
numbers after
It's
too
not
much wine.
so much
520
difference, but
to
it's
550.
especially it's
Correct.
long, not high.
Coltivata a giro poggio,
Okay, and the
Good
vines are
job.
grown across the hill, so not up and down the hill, but crosswise.
su terrazzamento, tutta allevata ad alberello.
All on terraces and all head trained.
Il Sangiovese, il Clone Sangiovese è stata piantata tra il 1990 e il 1994
So the Sangiovese there was planted between 1990 and 1994,
e sono tutti cloni sperimentali.
and they're all experimental clones.
Quindi abbiamo sia Sangiovese grosso che il Sangiovese piccolino.
So we have Sangiovese Grosso and also the smaller berry Sangiovese.
La differenza col Campolungo è
The
l'affinamento
difference
in botte.
between this and Campolungo is also the aging in casks,
Abbiamo ridotto quello che è l'affinamento
So
a
we're
15 mesi,
aging it less to 15 months.
quindi un periodo minimo di 1 anno in botte.
So, and it's at least a minimum of 1 year in cask and oak.
Quindi l'idea di mantenere il più possibile freschezza,
The idea
eleganza,
of maintaining freshness, elegance,
bevibilità, progressione.
drinkability, progression,
A differenza del Campolungo dove c'è
as
molto più
opposed to
complessità,
Campolungo, where you have more complexity.
c'è più quello che è un concetto di vino di tradizione.
This
del
one is a little
territorio.
bit more of a traditional style of wine. Grospoli.
Yes, Grospol is more more refined, more purity. Not because it is not refined, but it is, in any case, it's very muscular.
Yeah.
Campolungo. Grospoli is more thin, subtle, but there is more nervous.
Right.
More nervous, more fresh fruit, and more forest floor, but go deep.
Mhm.
Here is more large, like a bowl.
Right.
The other is more go straightforward.
Right.
Yes, it really, really, really impressive the way go long and deep at
Yeah.
the same time.
Yeah.
Grospoli is really, really impressive wines. Compared with Campolungo, we have 2 Gran Selezione, but really different one of the other, and not
Yeah.
only 2 different vineyards, but 2 different styles.
Yeah.
You can use in different moments. In my opinion, Campolungo is understandable of a lot of people.
Yeah.
Grospoli probably deserve very focused professionals, even if the normal consumer understand the high quality of the product.
Yeah.
But probably mentally can be enjoyed by really the sommelier, the real people. It's very interesting and very, you can say, joyful, and at the same time austere wines. Make a connection, impressive connection
Mhm.
between all what we can do.
Yeah.
Now we have in front of us a wonderful sunset.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
Dare I risk turning the camera around? Because I don't know how this will show, but we're going to try to show you this beautiful sunset that we've been looking
Okay,
at.
you are
If we seem
inside,
distracted.
unfortunately.
Yeah, the camera doesn't
inside.
do it justice. There's a beautiful crimson sunset coming over the hills of Tuscany. But anyway, I want to thank you guys. Thank you, Alberto. Thank you,
Thank you.
Andrea. And thank you
you.
to our visiting Somms for putting up with all this. Salute.
National
Happy
Chianti
National
Day.
Chianti Day. And to you guys, thank you for putting up with this as well. I hope those who enjoyed the samples, those who received the samples enjoyed them and enjoyed this tasting. I hope all of you enjoyed the tasting, and hopefully we encourage you to go out and try some of these wines because they're delicious. So thank you very much. On behalf of the Somm Journal, Somm Foundation, and Lamole di Lamole, happy National Chianti Day. Thank you for tuning in, and buon proseguimento.
We wait
Happy
for you
following us.
here in
Ciao.
Lamole. To visit Lamole di Lamole. Wait
Great.
for you.
All
Thank
right.
you so much.
Salute.
Salute. Cheers.
Thank you all.